All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second seminar of our summer career prep series. This is going to be all about creating a standout LinkedIn profile. So my name is Brian Finelli, and I work as the Director of Employer Relations here in the College of Business's Career Services Office at the University of Cincinnati. And I'm excited to be with you all today. I personally work with MBA students. I know you had Michael Nuttall last week, who works with our analytics students. And then next week will be Tanya Williams, who works with our information system students. So excited to get started here. Feel free to drop any questions in the chat as we go. If I need clarification, I'll ask you to unmute and we can have a conversation if needed. This is going to be a lot of information, and I realize that I'm going to provide a lot of tips and tricks as far as how to best leverage LinkedIn to your advantage for your job search. If you can get, 50% of what we're talking about today, I think you'll be in good shape. Don't stress about getting it necessarily all under control today. You'll cover this in your BA 7077 class in the fall as well. But for those of you that are wanting to take the initiative to get this all done early and kind of get the ball rolling on conducting a successful job search, I commend and applaud all of you for being here today. If at any point you need to duck out, that's totally fine. This presentation is going to be available on LinkedIn. I'm sorry, not on LinkedIn, on YouTube later today. So if you go to the search bar in YouTube and type in Lindner Career Services, you can find our YouTube channel and then go ahead, click in, and the video will be there so you can watch later if you'd like to do that too. Or if you know somebody who's going to be coming into one of the MS programs, feel free to send the link their way as well. Okay, so today we're focusing on LinkedIn, and I'm going to go ahead. Let me share my screen here, and hopefully this will just work through my second screen, and I'm going to show everything on here. Okay, so why are we spending a whole session talking about LinkedIn? One moment here. Okay, here we go. Why are we spending a whole hour here before you even start in your MS programs talking about LinkedIn? Well, second to your resume, it's probably the most important branding material that you're going to have during your job search. And it's the best tool out there to help you get connected to people. And we're going to stress this so much. I'm sure Michael stressed it last week. You're going to hear it so many times. We're going to definitely beat this dead horse. But to conduct a successful job search, you've got to meet people and you've got to connect to people and apply to people over just an online job posting. There have been so many studies that have been done that have shown that the success rate for an online job search, if you are strictly just going on to like Indeed and applying for jobs, and that's all you're doing, your success rate is going to be somewhere between 2 and 5% for any given job that you're applying for. And that's really, really, really low. So we here in the College of Business Career Services office want to encourage all of you to do high impact activities during your job search. And a high impact activity would be connecting with somebody at the company that you're trying to work for, developing a relationship with them, and then through that kind of navigating the job application process to get your resume out of the stack that has been submitted through Indeed or LinkedIn, and so that you can then land an interview. And we've seen time and time again that students are most successful in their job searches when they continue to make those kinds of connections. And of course, we here in the Career Services office, we're here to help you make those connections, yes. But LinkedIn is going to empower you to make connections on your own as well, because I'll be honest, if you're looking outside of the city of Cincinnati, our connections are going to be a little bit more limited, and LinkedIn is a huge help in areas like that. So you can see here just some stats. Online job apps have an average success rate of 2 to 5%. And then according to one study, for every one position the New York Federal Reserve filled with an online applicant, they filled 12 with internal referrals. So your goal is to break through all the clutter and the noise of the job application to hopefully become one of those internal referrals. So that is why we're spending all this time talking about LinkedIn. Okay, so hopefully all of you have at least started the process of developing a LinkedIn profile. Let's see, I'm going to try to make sure that I can see the chat as we go here. One moment. Okay, just want to make sure that I can see any questions that are coming in. So hopefully you all have at least gotten the ball rolling with at least having a LinkedIn profile. That's the first step. We're going to talk today about making the most of your entire LinkedIn profile and how to really leverage it to be a strong tool in your toolbox for your job search. Okay, so we're going to start with our profile header. Actually, before we do that, sorry, I'm going to go ahead and show you a few things that'll be helpful to do before we start editing our profile. So can you all see my LinkedIn profile here on the second screen? If somebody could just put a yes into the chat. Okay, perfect. Okay. So here's my LinkedIn profile. We're going to want to make a few adjustments to our settings before we start editing things because we don't want all of our connections to see all the changes that we're making. So if you can go ahead and click into, let's see, me, we're going to go to settings and privacy. So click on your profile and then click on settings and privacy. If you go down to visibility, you're going to want to click on this share updates with your network and turn it to off. Because if you're making a lot of changes to your profile at once, you don't want to bombard your connections with all the notifications of all the jobs you've had and everything you're adding to your profile. That's a great way to annoy your LinkedIn connection. So go ahead and turn that off. You can turn it back on when you're done editing your profile because it's of course helpful to see when people have been promoted or moving to a different company or those things. But for now, turning that off will be best. And then for your privacy settings, we're going to go ahead and change visibility to on. So over here on the right-hand side, when we go to edit public profile and URL, we want to make sure that your public profile is on. Otherwise, people aren't going to be able to see your profile if you send it to them or if you're trying to make connections on LinkedIn. So go ahead and turn that to on. And then last but not least, your URL, which this is the URL that's going to lead to my profile, you can personalize this. So the default on LinkedIn is that it's going to probably have something like your name and then a bunch of random digits and numbers. We want to clean that up and make it as concise and easy as possible. So if you click the pencil next to your URL, you can change it and customize it to whatever you want. So you can see here, mine is just linkedin.com/in/Brian J. Finelli. And that can be whatever you want. If you want to do, first initial, last name, last name, whatever you want, make it easy and kind of declutter your URL and then go ahead and save that. Okay, so that's what we want to do before we go ahead and jump in. Questions, like I said, feel free to drop those in the chat. Okay, so let's go back here to our presentation. Okay, so your profile header. Notice here that your profile picture should be just you. I know the temptation is strong to include, if you've got a pet or a significant other, kids. That's great for Facebook or Instagram or whatever, not for LinkedIn. A recruiter should be able to look at your profile and immediately know that it is you. So your face should be front and center, nothing else. And your face should really occupy like most of the frame. So at least 60% of the frame should be filled with just your headshot. Okay, the next thing that we're going to take a look at is your headline here. So whenever so if a recruiter is using LinkedIn and they're using the recruitment search function to find candidates for a job, if they're looking at a list of potential people that fit their filter criteria, they're going to see three things. They're going to see your picture, they're going to see your name, and they're going to see your headline. So your headline is one of the first things that a recruiter is going to see when your profile, when they're looking at your profile. So make it count. So for your intents and purposes, the headline should really contain a couple of things. One, your program. Are you MBA? Are you Master of Science in Business Analytics? Go ahead and include that in your headline. What you're looking for, if you're looking for a spring internship, if you're looking for a full-time job in brand management, go ahead and include that in your profile as well. And then industry keywords and unique skills are also good things to include in your headline as well. So you can see here, Jocelyn has a number of cool things in her profile. She's got market researcher, brand builder, problem solver, and then it cut off here, but fashionista. So we kind of get a sense of her personality here as well. So the more that you can do to be a little bit creative here, the better. This is going to default to whatever your most recent position is. So if you were most recently working in customer service at, I don't know, name a place, that's going to show up as your headline. So if you're in a position where you are coming to grad school and trying to pivot into a new kind of career, it's definitely going to be to your advantage to change your headline so that it reflects the kind of industry that you're hoping to break into, and not customer service representative at, XYZ. Okay, so that is our profile header. Like I said before, your header is always the first thing a recruiter is going to see before they click into your profile. So make it count. All right, so next on our profile is our about section. So we had, actually, let me go back to my profile. So we've got at the top of the page, we have, my picture. Cover photo is going to be helpful to include too. I think that shows that you're putting in the effort to complete your profile by not leaving that blank. And then your headline. So we covered that, and now we're going to go ahead and jump into this about section. Okay, so for your summary, this is going to essentially be your elevator pitch. What do you have to offer? Who are you? What are you looking for? What is your why? Okay, so your profile summary should really include, like I said, who are you? What do you do? What do you want to do? Why does your work matter? And really your contribution and impact. When I go on somebody's LinkedIn profile, I'm not necessarily looking for just like boom, 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 bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. This is not your resume. This is really a chance for you to showcase who you are beyond, one page of paper. So really make it count. But if you wouldn't mind muting yourselves, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. Okay, sorry about that. Okay. So when a recruiter clicks into your profile, this is then where their attention goes, is to your profile summary. So this is Jocelyn's summary, and I think this is a fantastic summary section. We'll read it really quickly here. So she says, embracing my constant thirst for knowledge, I'm a researcher with a passion for business and a human psyche. I help organizations bring their visions to life and pave the way for strategic action by leveraging skills such as project management, data analysis, strategic narration, and empathy. Through expertise I've gained via my dual masters and experience at Burke, Cintas, and P&G, I help companies develop richer insights on the industry and the consumers they serve. That is about as good as it gets when it comes to a profile summary. I have a clear idea of what she's about, what she's done in her career, and her impact. So try to be thoughtful and creative with your profile summary. A few quick tips. So it should be more than 50 words. I see a lot of summaries where it's like 1 or 2 sentences. That nothing says like, I didn't put the effort in, like a 25-word profile summary. Use first-person narrative, use I. I know we talked about last week in resumes, you don't use I. This is your profile. This is your kind of portfolio, if you will. Using first-person narrative is absolutely appropriate. And then we'll talk about this a bit later, but feel free to include rich media. That's one of the great things about LinkedIn is that if you have a project or a video or some sort of slide deck or presentation that you've worked on, you can showcase that so a recruiter can see it directly on your profile. You can also consider adding a PDF of your resume to your featured section. So this is something when I've been talking to recruiters at companies, they say that they like to see a student's or like to have access to a student's resume on their profile. It just makes it easier for them to not have to contact you to get that separately. So if you click Add Profile section, you can go down and click Add Featured. And then this will lead you to this page where you can click the plus sign, add media, and then add the PDF of your resume there. So that's a good idea as well. Okay, jumping back in. Okay, so that we have now covered the summary section, and now we're going to go ahead and jump into experience. So remember, like I said before, your experience section at best should not just be a duplication of your resume, right? If you've got a PDF of it on there that a recruiter can look at if they want to. They likely, if you've already applied to a job, they have it. LinkedIn gives you the flexibility to provide more context and narrative to what you've done. So keep that in mind as you're writing your experience section. At bare minimum, this should be, at least what's on your resume, but really try to be thoughtful, including some context and, creativity around your impact and what you've done in your previous roles. So again, I know we talked about this last week, but highlight results and impact. We don't necessarily just care about a job description. We want to know, what did you do? What impact did you make? Use short, concise paragraphs in a story format to give an idea of your contribution. And then you can use bullet points to emphasize results. So if there are key results that you have on your resume that you really want to showcase on your LinkedIn profile, by all means, feel free to add those. And okay, we've said this, your LinkedIn profile isn't your resume, so you have a lot more flexibility to be creative. So you can see here, this is an example of a profile. I'll go ahead and pull her profile up. Her name's Lauren Jolda. She actually works for LinkedIn. I think she has a fantastic LinkedIn profile. So for her experience section, you can see here, she teaches a course on rocking your LinkedIn profile, which I would definitely recommend if you're looking for an additional resource to improve your LinkedIn profile. That's a great course. You can see here, she has 3 short paragraphs about her skills and kind of how those skills have led her to success in this position. She's got rich media, which links to her, the course that I just mentioned. And you can see it's not just a duplication of her resume. So like this first paragraph here, I lead a small but mighty team where I'm focused on extending LinkedIn's vision of creating economic opportunity out in the world through a program called Rock Your Profile. Rock Your Profile has one simple mission: connect more people opportunity by empowering them to use LinkedIn to tell their unique story. Well written, clear idea of what she's doing and the impact that she's making there. Quick shameless plug, you all do have access to LinkedIn Learning, which is a great resource through your UC tuition. Your UC tuition covers your subscription to LinkedIn Learning. And that's a great resource for really any skill that you want to beef up in. So I highly recommend that as a resource for all of you as well. Okay, jumping back into our presentation here. So you're going to want to include all of the most relevant experiences. I know for those of you that are coming straight from undergrad, you're going to want to include all of your internships, co-ops, any other professional experiences that you've had. If you're a bit farther along in your career, you can kind of pick which experiences you think are going to be most impactful. So maybe if this was a position that was 25 years ago that is no longer relevant to what you're currently looking for, it's okay to go ahead and drop some of those off. But for the most part, this should include all of the professional experiences that you've had up until this point. Okay, next section is education. So for your education section, be sure to go ahead and spell out the University of Cincinnati Carl H. Lindner College of Business, just like you would have done on your resume. So you can see here, you can use the University of Cincinnati, the broad University of Cincinnati as your school. But when it comes to networking, you're going to have more impactful results if you use the College of Business and are interacting with alumni from the College of Business. There's just kind of that higher level of, solidarity and connection with other alumni of the same college. So go ahead and you list the College of Business as your education. Write out the name of your degree. So you can see here, Master of Business Administration, MBA in Marketing. And then this person also has societies and activities. And then they did a sustainability case competition and got first place. So those are all good things to include under your education section. One moment, just muting everybody. Okay. I think it's also a good idea to include your anticipated graduation date. So a lot of times when employers are looking for candidates, that's one of the key pieces of information that they want to know is when is this person going to be available to work. So that's always a good thing to include in your education section as well. List out activities and societies. You can go into greater detail about those, and we'll talk about other sections that you can include later on, but you can at least list them out in your education section. And then last but not least here for your education. Sorry, somebody was unmuted. I get distracted very easily. The last thing to know about your education section, the students are obsessed with their GPAs, right? I was guilty of this when I was in school. Everybody's striving for that 4.0, which is great if you get a 4.0. But really, employers care as long as your GPA is around a 3.5. An employer does not care as much about that GPA as you do. So totally fine to include your GPA if it's above a 3.0, but just remember that the employers don't care about it as much as you as a student do. And I would also add to this as an aside, employers care about what you do outside of the classroom that's relevant to the field that you're trying to get into much more than you getting an A in a class. So of course, it's great to get good grades, do well in your projects, but be looking for opportunities to really get that real world experience outside of class. Do that case competition, get involved with that company's information session, go do a micro internship, go do an internship if you can fit it in. That's going to be the thing that communicates the most value to employers. All right, so that covers our education section, and we will go ahead and move on to other sections to consider. This can be skills, recommendations, volunteer experience, projects, honors and awards. And I'm going to go ahead and we'll take a look at a sample profile to talk through some of these things. Keep in mind here that roughly 40% of recruiting managers view volunteer experience as equivalent to formal work experience. So don't underestimate your role in a volunteer organization, especially if what you were doing is relevant to the kind of job that you're trying to get. So be sure to leverage those volunteer experiences as appropriate, knowing that recruiters really do care about the volunteer experiences that you've had. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to a sample LinkedIn profile here. We'll go back to mine. So underneath all of this, we've gotten through our education. You can add in licenses and certifications. I've got my volunteering. Ideally, I would have listed here again, kind of like a short blurb about my work on each of these committees to give the person an example of what I was doing. I've got people that have endorsed me for various skills. So go ahead and add, like if there are, I would say 5 key skills that you know are relevant to your degree and to the job that you're trying to get after, go ahead and add those to your profile. And then recommendations can be a really great way to kind of contextualize some of the work that you've done. So of course, it's one thing for me to sit here and say like, oh, I've done X, Y, and Z at this company, and here's my contributions and all the amazing things I've done. But it's quite another and arguably more impactful when one of your colleagues or your supervisor says glowing things about you. So it's a great idea to try to get some good recommendations and referrals from people that you've worked with who can vouch for you. Okay, then you can add organizations, interests. I always think it's really good to go ahead and follow influencers, follow companies that you're interested in working for, join groups. We'll talk about the importance of groups here in just a moment. There are also a plethora of other things that you can add. There's so many things that you can add to your LinkedIn profile. If it applies to you, feel free to add it. So we talked about licenses and certifications. You can add the courses that you've taken, recommendations, volunteer, publications, projects, honors and awards, all of these things. So if they apply to you, feel free to add in any of those supporting profile sections as well. But at minimum, you should really have your summary, your experience filled out well, your education, and then a few other sections to support the sections that have come above. Okay, so that kind of covers the basic details for what should be in your profile. And don't worry, at the end of this presentation, I have a checklist that I will share with all of you. There's a QR code that you can get our checklist to make sure that you've kind of checked all of the boxes with your profile. So when we hear in about 20 minutes or so, I will share that with you, or whenever we wrap up here. Okay, so a few of the things that I want to talk about before our time together is through. The first is sending connection requests. So if you're working with like a recruiter, or you've met somebody at a career fair, or anytime you're really connecting with anybody, add a connection request, add a note to it. Okay, so I've implemented this new policy where I'm not accepting new connection requests unless students add a note, because otherwise I'm like, who are you? Why are you connecting with me? And it's good to provide that context to whether it's a recruiter, whether it's a networking contact, whether it's somebody working in a job that you could see yourself in. Be very clear as to why you are reaching out. And here's a kind of an anecdote from a headhunter. 575 new connection requests on LinkedIn over the weekend. I mean, seriously. So if you're in her shoes and you're getting that kind of volume of requests, it's going to be really important that you do something to stick out from all the noise. And adding a note as far as why you're reaching out and who you are can be really helpful. So when I'm going in and adding someone, let's see, who do I want to add? I was looking at a recruiter from, well, it doesn't matter right now, but when you go to add somebody and you connect with them, okay, hang on just a minute here. I should have had this ready to go before I hopped onto this call. Let's do Leif Edgar. Okay, so let's say I want to connect with Leif. Make sure you go ahead and click add a note, and then you can add the connection request note to that. Keep in mind, if you are on the app and you're sending a connection request to somebody here, let me pull the app up. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so if you are on the app and you go to connect with somebody, Leif Edgar, if I click connect, it's automatically going to go ahead and connect me to him. It's not going to ask me to send a connection request. So what I want to do is click the ellipses here, and then I want to say personalize invite. And when I personalize the invite, then it lets you send that connection request. So I've made that mistake before where I just hit connect. And it's like, oh, nothing I can do now. So make sure that you're always personalizing your requests. I just got a question here that I will try to answer. LinkedIn doesn't allow to message the person before the connection. What to do that? Yeah. So you're not going to be able to message somebody if you're not connected to them. If you click connect, it will let you add a note to the connection request. That's what we're talking about right now. I will talk to you about a strategy as far as how to message somebody if you're not connected to them here in just a minute. But for when you're connecting with them initially, when you hit connect on a laptop or PC, you can click connect, and then it'll let you add the note. And then if you're on the app, just make sure to hit that ellipses and click personalize invite before you add the connection. Okay. So next we are going to talk about exactly what I just mentioned. So what if you aren't connected with somebody, but you want to message them? There's a workaround in LinkedIn that will allow you to do that. So for example, let me share this again. Okay, so for example, Leif here. I want to message Leif, but I'm not connected to him. A nice little workaround in LinkedIn is that you can message people through mutual groups. So I know here by clicking on mutual groups that Leif is part of Lindner Honors Plus, and he's also part of University of Cincinnati Carl H. Lindner College of Business Alumni and Friends, which is a network I would certainly encourage all of you to go ahead and join right now. So if we go into the group and we click show all underneath the members, I can go ahead and search for Leif. And boom, now I can message him. And I can, there's no stipulation as far as limits to characters that I'm allowed to send in a message now. So that is a great workaround if you're wanting to message somebody, but you're not necessarily connected with them yet. Okay, now we're going to talk about more of like the job search and really how to leverage LinkedIn through the job search. Okay, so excuse me. LinkedIn does have a fantastic job search function with filters that I think are very helpful. So I'm going to show you kind of how I use LinkedIn. This is kind of after the years that I've been in this position, these are kind of some best practices that I have found. Okay, so if you are, we're going to do an example. Let's say you're an MBA and you're looking for a job in marketing. Really, I think your best bet is to go ahead and use the search term MBA and then marketing. That will take you to this list of results. Now, I would encourage you when you get here, you don't know when these positions have been posted. A lot of them are promoted, which a lot of these are relevant positions. I would say it's best to go ahead and filter by most recent because some companies are not necessarily on top of their LinkedIn postings and you may be applying to a position that was posted months ago. You don't want to waste your time doing that if they're already in the interviewing phase. So I think it's best to go ahead and sort by most recent, so you know that you're looking at positions that have been recently posted. Experience level is going to depend on your level of experience, of course. We'll do associate. And then, you know, feel free to fill in all these other filters as well. We're going to go ahead and I think just go ahead and search now. You could also, we could also just look for Cincinnati up here, but a lot of these are going to be local anyway. So here are some relevant examples. There is no perfect way to make sure that LinkedIn is only showing you positions that are relevant to your search terms. You're going to have to comb through some of the clutter to get to the positions that are actually of interest to you. So let's scroll through here and see if there are any positions that might be of interest to me. I'm going to go ahead and put it in Cincinnati. Okay, so all of these are going to be a little bit more local. Okay, so here's an example. We work with Siemens a bit. We've got a number of alumni there. Here's a product marketing manager remote position. So, okay, I think I might be interested in this position. We go through, see if our experience aligns, keeping in mind that all of the things listed here are exactly, if they could pick a perfect candidate for a position, what are all of the exact things that they would want that candidate to have? Okay, so even if you only meet, let's say 50, 60% of the requirements for the position, it's not going to hurt you to go ahead and apply, okay? Don't feel like you have to meet every single position requirement to apply to a job. Okay. I'm just making sure that this is so hard with so many screens to stay on top of everything, just making sure I don't have any chats waiting for me. Okay, So let's say we're interested in this, we're thinking about applying, but like we talked about before, we want to be very intentional about reaching out to people and not just applying to jobs online. So if we go into the position, we can click on the company here, and this will take us to the company page. And this is going to lead us to some interesting information. The first of which are your connections that work there. So maybe one of these connections, we've got somebody in digital marketing, we've got somebody as a marketing coordinator that I'm already connected to. So these might be good people to reach out to and say, hey, I'm looking at this job, any chance we could connect to chat about Siemens and the culture and kind of this role, and might you be able to get me connected to somebody else who's involved with the hiring process? So that's a great place to start, is the people that you're already connected to. Now, if you're not connected to anybody, there's another great way to go about finding potential connections, and that's under the People tab here. So if we click on People, this is going to take us to everybody on LinkedIn who works at Siemens. And then from there, we can filter it down to where they study. So we can click University of Cincinnati. And this is going to be all of the people at Siemens that are from the University of Cincinnati. So these are going to be great potential advocates for you and potential networking contacts for you to reach out to during the job search, to conduct informational interviews, to talk about the company and see if you can get connected to, like I said, potentially even the hiring manager. Okay, so that's kind of, as you're doing your job search, be intentional about going into the company, seeing what contacts work there. Who can you reach out to? Who can you network with, so that you're not just submitting an online job application. All right, let's see where we are on my schedule here. Okay, so we're LinkedIn job search. Okay, next, so along these same lines, this is a very helpful tool, the People tool on company pages. I would say an even more helpful tool is the Alumni tool, which is one of the best kept secrets on LinkedIn. So like I mentioned before, you should go ahead and claim Carl H. Lindner College of Business as your college under the education section. So let's go ahead and type that in. Here's the Carl H. Lindner College of Business page. And this takes us to the UC Lindner College of Business LinkedIn page, and we can click on Alumni. And when we click on Alumni, this is going to take us to all of the alumni of the Carl H. Lindner College of Business. And this can be really helpful because if you're looking for contacts at your target companies, you can go ahead and search like Procter & Gamble and see who works in Procter & Gamble. Let's say you're looking for somebody who works in brand management. Boom, I can go ahead and see people who graduated from the College of Business who are working in brand management at Procter & Gamble. And these can all be great possibilities of people to begin reaching out, developing relationships with, networking with, et cetera, et cetera. So in some of your classes, like in my MBA career management course, students will have to complete 2 informational interviews during the first half of the semester. This is a great place to go to start identifying people who are going to know, like, what is a job in brand management? What does that entail? What is the day-to-day like? What is Procter & Gamble like? So that you have this information going into your job search and you're not just going in blind and applying to random jobs on an online job board, which is, like I said before, not the way to do it. All right, so that essentially covers the basics of LinkedIn and leveraging LinkedIn to conduct a successful job search. All right, let's go back in here and we'll finish this out. Talked about the alumni tool. Okay, final LinkedIn tips. The first, like I mentioned before, there is a LinkedIn checklist for master's students that you can access by scanning that QR code. So that's going to kind of take you to a summary of today's presentation, broken down by subsection as far as what are the key things I need to make sure to do for my profile, my summary, my experience, other sections, and then some of those other helpful tools that we talked about. So that can be a great resource for you as you develop your profile. We do not recommend paying for the LinkedIn Premium service, because what you can get for free, all of that I just showed you, all of that is free. So there are some helpful features that you can get with LinkedIn Premium service, but it's expensive and arguably not worth it. So we don't recommend paying for that. Update your profile regularly. The great thing about your LinkedIn profile is that it is a living document, just like your resume, and you can update it in real time. So as you continue on in your master's programs here at UC, make sure to update it regularly with courses that you've taken, projects that you've done, other maybe presentations, case competitions. Keep all of that up to date so that what you're sharing with employers is accurate of all that you have to offer. LinkedIn is a two-way street. So you shouldn't just be going out there and trying to make as many connections as possible, but offer value to the people that you are connected with. So let's say somebody that you really admire on LinkedIn posted an article that you find very helpful. Comment on it, like it, engage, interact. You shouldn't just be going on to LinkedIn to consume. You should be going on to provide value and to really do things that are going to help you leverage and build relationships with other professionals. LinkedIn does not take the place of in-person networking. So you should still be doing what you can to reach out and conduct informational interviews, to talk to people face-to-face, going to career fairs, going to other sorts of employer events that are relevant to the companies and industries that you want to get involved in. We all know how much relationships influence what we do. And the more that you are able to build relationships with people, which I would say tends to happen more easily in person, and hopefully this year we'll be able to experience that as COVID restrictions are much more limited than what they were in the past. Just remember that you shouldn't just be using LinkedIn to network online. You should be conducting in-person networking as well. And then, like we talked about before, the more rich media that you can add to your profile, the more impactful it's going to be. So the more that you can kind of show, this is a report that I developed for my boss, or this is a project that I feel really proud of, or this is a presentation that I gave that's relevant to the industry that I'm in. Share all of that. This is your place to shine. This is essentially a combination of your resume and a portfolio so that you can showcase all of the value that you have to offer a potential employer. Okay, and with that, we come to the end of the presentation. I'll go ahead and, well, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Like I said, this presentation is going to be available for you to watch later on YouTube. So you can just go to YouTube and type in Lindner Career Services. It'll take you to our page and you can watch all of this again if you should so choose. But for the time being, I'm happy to take any questions here. I've got about 4 or 5 minutes here before I've got to get to my next thing. So fire away if there are any questions. Or did I do that good of a job that nobody has any questions about how to leverage LinkedIn? I don't think.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, Priya.
So I just wanted to check, when we are adding that personal note while connecting, while sending a request for connection. So what is the best way to go about it? Should we give a brief introduction, like where are we from and what are exactly we looking for, and how to go about it? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a great question. So that'll look a little bit different depending on the context of the situation. I would say first and foremost, keep it brief. No employer wants to read paragraphs about, your background or where you come from. So keep it short, concise. They should be able to quickly glance at and kind of get the main points. If you have met somebody in real life, so let's say you went to the career fair and you're following up with a connection, say that. Say, it was so great to talk with you at the career fair. I loved our conversation. If you can include something from that conversation to really make it personal and so that the recruiter remembers that conversation, that's the best practice. Let's say, so if you're reaching out to, let's say, an alum and you've not met them before, then you can say something along the lines of, hi, so-and-so, I'm a fellow Bearcat. I came across your profile on LinkedIn because I'm trying to, learn more about marketing roles at Procter and Gamble. Would love to add you to my network and potentially pick your brain about what marketing is like at Procter and Gamble. So something very short, identifying what the common connection that you have is. So you're both fellow Bearcats, both, UC alum, that kind of thing. And being very clear about why you are connecting. I came across your profile because I'm interested in P&G. I saw that you work in marketing. I'd love to learn more from you. That's really it. You don't need to provide a ton of information about like, I'm looking for this kind of job and this is my background. You want to make it about the person you're connecting with.
Got it. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing this.
You are welcome. Other questions? That was a great question. I know that can be hairy, like what exactly do I need to include in this? But keep it short, keep it about the other person, and if you met them, make sure that it's personalized. Anything else? And I will also say, so if you want to send me a private chat here in Zoom, that's fine. If you want to email me, feel free to email me. It's just Brian here. I'll put my email in the chat. You all have a career coach. So depending on your program, you can reach out to your career coach for more questions. But feel free to email me if there are anything else, but I'll just wait here another minute or so if anybody else has any other questions they would like to ask. All right, I'm going to take that as a no, but the next session is going to be next Thursday, July 21st at 11 a.m. And you can refer to that same email that has all of the links in it. Tanya Williams will be talking about professionalism and networking. So feel free to join her next week for the culmination of our summer series. But thank you all so much for joining today. You all have certainly put your best foot forward, I think, as you get started here in grad school. I commend you for taking the time to come here today to sit through an informational session on leveraging your LinkedIn. If you approach the rest of your grad school with this level of intention, I think you all are going to be very successful. I'll stick around here for a couple minutes for anybody who wants to chat individually, but for those of you who are good to go, feel free to sign off and we'll see you on campus here in just over a month. You all are very welcome. Thanks for coming. All right, unless any of you have any questions for me, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I just wanted to give you a quick 10-second warning before I do that. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day. Have a good one.